Well, welcome to Christian Answers. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst, trying to apply the Bible to our contemporary world and life in these secular modern times. And today we're going to be talking about another foolish, stupid, insane, idiotic idea coming from our socialist leaders in the United States, and that is free universal child care, another socialist entitlement program. And now the governor of New York State is proposing a universal child care benefits package for all of New York State, not just New York City, all of New York State. And so I want to talk about how, as Christians, as Bible-believing Christians with a Christian worldview, seeking to live our lives and think and act and feel in a godly way based on the biblical revelation that God shows us in the Bible, how we are to oppose this and why it should be opposed strongly, because it is undermining the biblical revelation that we receive from God in the Bible, and it will ultimately hurt society. And I have to explain this because on the surface, it might seem that, universal child care, that will help families, that will help mothers. That's a good thing, isn't it? Well, no, it's not a good thing, and it won't help mothers, and it won't help families, because ultimately it will undermine the God-given institution of family and marriage, and will also ultimately unhinge society also, because it will again separate a mother from her child or her children. So we see here in the picture that I'm showing Governor Kathy Hochul wanting to be your mama, wanting to be your mommy, your nanny, wanting to step in between you and your child, wanting to take on the responsibility of raising your child, and wanting the state to take over the responsibility of raising your child. And this is right out of the Karl Marx Communist Manifesto playbook. Marx and Engels did not like the traditional family, biblical family of a man and a woman raising their children. They did not like that. The communists want to separate the parents from their child. They want the state to take over in the raising of that child. And so they've been against the biblical Christian, Judeo-Christian family structure ever since they began to write their revolutionary Marxist writings in the 19th century. And so we see Kathy Hochul and the radical left and the Democrats falling in line with Karl Marx once again, and here is another of his policies that the socialist Kathy Hochul wants to implement statewide in New York State. So let's go and see her big announcements. Here she says on the New York State website, showing Kathy Hochul wanting to be your nanny and the nanny state of the New York State. Governor Hochul announces investments to deliver universal child care for New York children under 5. Governor and Mayor Mamdani, that is the radical socialist just elected as the mayor of New York City, to launch free child care for 2-year-olds in New York City. So they're jumping on the Marxist bandwagon. And let's see what this is all about. Let's roll this clip and see what Governor Kathy Hochul is talking about.
And now, please rise and welcome to the podium the 57th governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is the day that everything changes. Woo! I'm so proud to be here at the Flatbush Y to declare that New York State is open for families. Because families.
That is not true. This will not help families. And the reason it will not help families is because it is sticking children into daycare. It is encouraging parents, it is encouraging mothers to stick their child into daycare while they go off to work. And that is not the way the godly, biblical structure of a family should operate. The parents do not stick their children into daycare. And we should not encourage that to happen. Under the godly model, under the Christian model, the mother raises the children in the values and behaviors that the Bible expresses. And she's responsible during the day while the husband is off working and bringing home resources to feed the family. The mother is supposed to be at home. The Bible says women are to be keepers of the home. Well, how can you be keepers of the home when you're working a full-time job outside the home? Well, you can't. And how can you raise your children if you're keeping a full-time work schedule outside the home? Again, you can't. So you have to ship those kids off to a daycare. And that can be costly. That can be expensive. It can be burdensome. So now Governor Kathy Hochul says, oh, wait, we have a solution. We will take money from families all across the state, and we will pay for your child to go to universal daycare free, so you don't have to pay. And now you can go to work and neglect your responsibility of raising your own children, and we as the state will pay for your child care so some stranger can raise your child. That is not an improvement on the family. That is not a step forward. That is a step backwards. And as Christians, we have to say, this is a terrible idea. And yet, she's all excited. She said, things have changed. Today, everything changes. Because we're going to encourage women to abandon their children, and we're going to pay for their child care. And she's all excited about that.
And I'm so proud to be joined by an extraordinary partner. First week on the job, but you'd never know it. Mayor Mamdani has put forth
the open socialist communist of New York City. The first ever socialist communist mayor of New York City, who has promised that he will run that city as if it's a socialist state. And he will tax the rich, increase taxes on middle class, and he will increase the government entitlement goodies that he gives away to everyone else. So he's going to redistribute the wealth. He's going to try to make everyone with the same income, no matter what their jobs are. He's going to try to provide universal this and that and the other, just like they do in the old Soviet Union and just like they do now in communist China and so on and so forth. So that's his vision. And now Kathy Hochul, who was a liberal, but now she's becoming a socialist, even more radical. She's joining forces with a outright socialist. And so now she is joining the socialist crowd by saying, we're going to have universal child care. Again, this is right out of the Karl Marx playbook, and it's happening before our very eyes. This is not the United States that was founded over 200 years ago. This is not the United States where people come to be free and self-sufficient and carry their own weight and make decisions and responsible adult decisions about their lives and their families and their children. Now this is a nanny state. And Kathy Hochul wants to be the nanny.
a vision for this city that I am a big supporter of, and that is to make this city more affordable, more livable, more people friendly. And we're going to continue working together. We also know that for a long time, families have been crying out for help. And I want to thank everyone in this room who's listened to those cries, who said the status quo is not working. We can do better because we're New Yorkers. Of course we can dream bigger.
And so her solution is to get more women and more mothers, pull them away from their children, put them out into the workforce, separate them from their children, train them that this is normal, train them that this is natural, train them that this is a superior way. So now children will have less and less time with their parents every day, thanks to Governor Hochul, who thinks this is a great idea. And you notice all these women around her, they're all smiling, they're all happy. This is going to be great. Now we can work 50-hour a work week. Now we can put in more time at the office. And our child will be taken care of, and we won't have to pay those exorbitant fees and weekly fees for the daycare, and it's breaking us. Now we can have government pay for it. And we're going to pull taxpayer money from other families to pay for it. And all across the state, all the taxes and all the families are going to go toward giving my kid free childcare. How is this a good idea? How is this good? Please explain to me. I think the assumption is, oh, it's great. Well, explain why it's great.
And do more and be more audacious. And that's why you're witnessing history here today. So to all the champions, the advocates, our host, Sharon Levy, the Vice President of the YMCA, be hearing from Sharon. Hey, Sharon.
So she just goes on and on and on about, oh, this is a great day. This is great for New York. This is great. Why is this great? You are undermining the family structure, the God-given family structure. You are undermining the biblical understanding of marriage and family. Let me just read a little bit of the announcement so we don't have to listen to Kathy Hochul go on and on about how great this is and how great she is. This Governor Hochul today announced an unprecedented investment as the next step to deliver affordable universal child care for children under 5 years old across the state. So these are children who don't go to school yet. So for a working woman, for a career woman who has decided that she wants to prioritize her career over her children, that in the past has been difficult because when you go to work and you earn the money, you're paying it right out the door with childcare because you're going to have someone watch your children. So it's almost a net negative. You go to work, you have to pay somebody to watch your children. You have to pay them to watch your children. All of the money that you earn at work goes to the daycare and so on and so forth. But now they have a solution. They've found a solution. The New York State government, through tax money, is going to pay for the free childcare for women who want to prioritize their career. And from a Christian viewpoint, this is disaster because we don't want to encourage women to prioritize their career over their children. We want them to prioritize their children over any career aspirations they have. Because you really have to choose. Am I going to be a mother or am I going to be a career woman? Am I going to work 40 hours a week outside the home, or am I going to spend time raising my own children? That's the question. And as a Christian, the answer is found in the Bible. It's found in the revelation of God, and that is the women, it says, are to be keepers of the home. They are to spend their time faithfully raising their children and supporting their family in the home. And the man is supposed to go and provide the resources for the family outside of the home so that when he comes home, the family gets together, and they are a family. But under Kathy Hochul's vision, And Mamdani, the socialist vision, and Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, their vision, the woman goes to work and the man goes to work and the children go to daycare. And the state raises the child and is able to make good communists of the children because the family isn't there to provide any alternative vision for the child. So this is clearly a socialist communist program, and Kathy Hochul is now being led by this socialist communist mayor of New York City instead of leading based on the will of God. The governor will partner with Mayor Zoran Mamdani to deliver free childcare for 2-year-olds in New York City. So they're starting that right away. 2-year-olds in New York City. In addition to strengthening the existing 3K program to achieve universal care and ultimately serve all families across the city. In 2026, the state will continue to expand the access to high-quality childcare programs throughout the state. Throughout the diversity of models, saving New York families billions of dollars each year. Yeah, because it'll be free. It'll be free childcare. And taxpayers will pay for that. So again, a wealth transfer, a transfer of funds from people, maybe all kinds of people, single people, retirees who don't have children. They're going to now be paying for career women to pursue their careers. Since taking office, Governor Hochul has already taken major steps to expand access to affordable child care for families through an investment of more than $8 billion in state child care infrastructure, dramatically expanding access as part of laying the groundwork for the implementation of the universal care statewide. So again, this is the feminist ideology being acted out by a feminist. Kathy Hochul is a feminist, and by other feminists. This is feminist ideology that says we want everything paid by the state. We want to marry the state. We don't need men. We don't care about men. It doesn't matter if you don't have a husband to provide for you. It doesn't matter if you don't have men around you. The state will take care of us. And we're going to continue to ask the state to pay for more and more and more and more things for us. That's the feminist ideology. Feminism loves socialism because under socialism, you don't need a husband. The state is your husband. And all you have to do is be faithful to the state, and the state will be faithful to you. Totally undermining the family structure. Totally undermining the biblical understanding of marriage. That's why as Christians we need to oppose this. We don't want to encourage women to prioritize careers over children and family. We want to prioritize the opposite, families and children over careers. We want to encourage young women to not think in terms of, oh, well, I'll just have a child, but I don't have to raise that child because I'll just push it to daycare, which Kathy Hochul will pay for me. So I don't have to worry. I can just pursue a marketing career and do that all day and then come home and pick up my child at the daycare and play with it at night and then ship it off in the morning when I go to work. No, that's not a family. That's not raising a child. That is irresponsibility. That is offloading your child onto somebody else, making it their responsibility instead of being responsible and raising that child yourself. This is part of the breakdown of society. You want to know why children are rebelling. You want to know why teenagers turn out rude, aggressive. They don't want to do the right thing. All these things play in together when the parents are not there to give the child attention and formation. They will learn from others. They will learn from the institutions that they're part of. They'll learn from the public schools. They'll learn from the colleges. They'll learn from the daycares, but they won't learn from their parents. And the values that their parents hold will not be transferred onto the children. So as Christians, this is a terrible idea. It says there's one thing that every family in New York can agree: the cost of childcare is simply too high. Well, it depends on what do you mean too high. I mean, if you're raising your child yourself, which you're supposed to because you're a mother, you bring a child into the world and then you raise that child up, supposed to take care of that child. Childcare is not too high for a mother who is doing what she's supposed to do. Now, if you're doing what you're not supposed to do, which is to go off full-time every day to some external job, yeah, childcare, I would imagine, would be too high. But then again, you're not supposed to do that anyway. As New York's first mom governor, in other words, the nanny state, the epitome of it, fighting for New York's families has always been at the core of my agenda. Fighting for families. Are you really fighting for families, or are you fighting for the feminist ideal? Because you're not really fighting for families by pushing daycare. You're fighting for juvenile delinquency. That's what you're fighting for. Breakdown of society. Since taking office, I put families front and center. No, you haven't. It might look like that, but the effect is not putting families first. It's putting them last and putting careers and money and material things first and selfish feminism first. Fighting to make our state more affordable and laying the groundwork to deliver universal childcare. Again, it's a foolish policy. As Christians, we need to oppose it. Today, I'm proud to partner with Mayor Mamdani. She's proud to partner with a socialist communist. That's all you need to know. And leaders across our state to make this a reality, turning that foundation into a concrete roadmap that will transform the lives of working parents and kids across our state. That is true. It will, but it will transform them in the negative direction. It will be a bad thing for the families in New York State. Yes, it will transform the lives of working parents and kids across our state. It will draw more working women into the external work, 40-hour a week, 50-hour a week, office, job, wherever. It will take more of these women who have given birth to child and take them further away from the children and undermine the family structure in a greater way. Yes, it will transform families. It will undermine families. It will break up families. So then the communist Mamdani starts talking, and over the past 14 months, a movement was born to fight for a city where every New Yorker could afford a life of dignity, and every family could afford to raise their children. They're not raising their children when they're shipping them off to daycare. That's the point. So this is all false. Every family could afford to raise their kids. You're not raising your kids. Someone else is raising your kids. Today, Governor Hochul and I meet with that movement as we celebrate our joint commitment to universal child care. Sure. And every other communist policy that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels proposed. Yeah. What's the next one? This victory represents... The next one is they'll be getting up here and saying, we have abolished private property, and now everyone has a free apartment. Everyone has a free car, an automobile, or free transportation. No one owns anything. Everyone will own everything. Again, what's next? So it goes on and on and on. The proposal says make pre-care truly universal statewide. Partner with New York City to launch the new mayor's signature 2Care program and finally realize the promise of universal 3K access in New York City. So then they go on and on and on about how great this is and how much money they're going to spend to try to bring families under the control in a greater way of the state, the government, and bring the state and the government into a closer relationship with families and children. Totally undermining the family structure. And this isn't like a subtle point. This is very clearly in opposition to the biblical vision for a family and marriage and children. This is a total abdication of parenting by parents of children. This will not only undermine the family, it'll undermine marriages, it'll lead to more divorces, or it'll lead to more couples just living together without any kind of lifelong commitment or covenant called marriage. Now, some people say, well, Europe has done this already. We're behind the times. Europe has done this. The Scandinavian countries have already been offering universal child care. All of these leading European secular nations have done this. Yes. And that doesn't mean we need to follow it. We don't want to just copy. We don't want to simply make the same mistakes as other countries have made. Greece had a great social welfare benefit entitlement program before it went bankrupt. It just couldn't afford to pay for all of the promises it's made to its citizens. Well, what happened with Greece? Well, they kept adding on benefits and benefits and benefits, and people said, oh yeah, that's great. We want more of this and we want more of that. And the government just kept giving them more and more of that until they actually ran out of money and they went bankrupt. And you look at our country today and what? $40 trillion debt? And our politicians keep on spending more money and more money and more money. And now New York State wants to take on more benefit packages, more welfare programs, more entitlement programs. Just run up the bill. There's no tomorrow. Spend, tax. Just spend and tax and tax and spend, and everything will work out right. And this new mayor, who's never done anything in his whole life, he is leading the way, and the governor now of the state is following him. Yeah, this is a recipe for disaster. As Christians, we need to oppose this universal child care and say, no. That's the responsibility of the mother, of the father, to make sure their own child gets cared for. It is not the state's responsibility. It is not the citizens' responsibility. It is the parents. And it shouldn't be shoved off into the public sector. This is a private decision that needs to be made in the family. Hope that's been helpful. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.